Live from the SuperTalk Mississippi 97.3 studios in Hattiesburg, this is the Pine Belt Talks Back. Join the conversation by calling our studio lines at 601-264-8910. Now, here's your host, Micheal Mergens.
And good morning to you on this Thursday. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we have Jennifer Clark. She's going to be in to talk about the Pine Belt Women's Expo coming up on July 28th at the Lake Terrace Convention Center. But in studio right now, as she is every Thursday morning, Social Security disability lawyer, Angela Davis-Morris. And good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
So it's been a week since we were in here last, and last week we talked about what happens when a person is denied. They don't appeal within 60 days. Generally, that's bad news, and they'd have to start over from the beginning. Right. So clearly, one would want to appeal any denial timely, and how do you go about appealing?
Kind of the same way you would if you were just filing. You can do it, of course, in person. You can go to the Social Security office, and they'll hand you a form, and you just fill that out and leave that with them. Mm-hmm. They can schedule something by telephone, and then they'll mail you the form, or you can do it online. So there is access. SSA.gov generally has those forms online. And honestly, appealing is a little bit easier online than filing is.
I can imagine. Most things are nowadays. But, not everyone's online, though.
Those forms are available as some of the forms for the initial filing are not available online. You still have to do some mailing. Okay. But with the appeals, it's pretty much online. And the only thing is they're pretty in-depth.
Really?
You thought it was bad to file, but now you have to remember what you said when you filed and update that information.
Okay.
So you have to kind of backtrack and think, what did I say before and what is going on now? So they want a comparison.
So that would make sense to keep track of everything that you're doing from day one.
Great
keep copies,
advice.
Write it down. Okay.
Keep a calendar, write it down in a journal. Whatever's easier for you. Sometimes they'll give you a discharge note when you leave the doctor. Not all of them do, but some of them do.
Right.
With instructions or something like that. You can keep those. Whatever's easier for you, but definitely keep up because you're going to have to know that information.
Definitely. So that due diligence with anything is that way, but definitely this.
Absolutely with this. With anything to do with Social Security, they're going to want dates, times, places, events. They're going to want to know how this is different compared to the last time you said something to them.
Right.
So no matter what level of appeal you're at, you're still going to have to think back to the last time you appealed or had a communication with them about limitations and functioning and doctors and who you've seen, that sort of thing. And you're going to have to be able to update that. Mm-hmm. So it can be a little time-consuming and require a little thinking to get it done. It's doable, though.
Yeah. Okay. So being organized from the start, which is why I'm organized with everything. And some people look at me funny that way, but that's what I consider. It's like down the road, it just makes the process so much easier when something does come up. Boom, here it is.
But when you're living that, you're not thinking about being organized. And that's where your lawyers come in.
Right.
Because we can ask those questions and tell you, go get X, go look at X, and give us the date on that, or tell us about this. And they just changed your medicine. Why did they do that? What's happening?
Yeah.
So we can prompt for that information and try to get good information because you don't want to just say none.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the same answer. You're going to get another denial.
Right.
Because they're going to say, well, nothing's changed. We denied you last time, so let's just make this easy on ourselves and do the same. So that's what's going to happen.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's kind of sort of like even when you're going to the doctor and you are in a situation where you're not going to be able to work, you're asking that doctor all these questions. He's giving you a consultation on all this stuff. And a lot of people that either have a disability or even a disease, they can tell people all about what's bothering them. They know the whole story because they've sat down with the doctor and gotten all this laid out. So if you're doing that with your doctor, you need to do that not only with the lawyer, but with the administration, with Social Security. I mean, it only makes sense.
You'd be surprised at how many people don't talk to the doctor like that, though.
Really?
It's crucial. It is extremely important. It can make or break your case.
Yeah.
But I actually had a client the other day. Her daughter had just had surgery, literally. A couple months ago, her daughter was in a wheelchair. And we asked her, how long do you expect your daughter to be in this wheelchair? Well, I have no idea.
Wow.
You didn't talk to the doctor about that? No, but we're going to go back at the end of July. And I'm thinking, if my daughter was going to have surgery that was going to put her in a wheelchair, I would be asking questions. I would want to know. And what do we expect from this? What's the healing time? How long is this person going to be in the wheelchair? Is she going to be able to walk? Do we go into crutches next? What's happening?
Right.
I mean, I think I would probably be one of those million question kind of patients, or mothers or whatever. But I was flat amazed.
Yeah,
I was
that's a good
amazed.
point.
She had no idea what was coming.
Now, I guess I just take it from my perspective because I'm the exact same way. what's this medication going to do to me? How long am I going to be out of work? Am I going to be laid up? Am I going to have scars? All this stuff. But that's a good point. Not everyone is thinking that way.
Not everybody is. They need to be.
Yes.
I highly advocate that. I think that's the way you should be, just from a prudent medical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But never mind, if you're going to file for disability, you need that information because you need to be able to tell the judge, this is where we're headed with this.
Yeah.
They're looking at surgery if this doesn't work, or they're going to try this and this and this, and they're expecting this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors can tell you. I mean, they may not be able to say exactly 100%, this is where you're going to be in 3 days or 6 months or whatever, but they can give you some idea, some range, something to move for.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you have no idea where you're headed.
Right. No, that only makes sense. And, of course, if you have a question for Angela, 264-8910 is the phone number. Now, what are the two biggest mistakes that people make when trying to get disability benefits? Because I'm sure that there's a lot that are made.
Tons of mistakes. Tons and tons of mistakes.
What do you see the most that could be avoided, basically?
The biggest one and the most easily avoidable problem is the failure to appeal.
Okay.
We just talked about appealing and how do you do that. Of course, you can just deal with Social Security. You can call your attorney, whatever's easier for you. If you have an attorney, certainly don't go to Social Security. You need to go to your lawyer and let them handle it for you.
Right.
But I don't know exactly why that happens. I suspect that people get very frustrated. They get that denial and they say, oh, I'm just going to get another one of these. Why do I need to bother?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying no, or they get their feelings hurt, or they do the ostrich thing and stick their head in the sand.
Yeah.
That won't get you there with Social Security. You absolutely have to appeal, and you have to do it within your time.
Yeah.
Generally 60 days. There are a couple of things that only have a 10-day time limit. Most of them have a 60-day. So there's plenty of time. If you're having 10 bad days in a row, day 11, go appeal that thing.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time to do that. So it's, even people who are pretty ill can manage that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they give you plenty of time to do that. And it's time consuming, but if you don't do it, you're out.
Yeah.
You're absolutely out.
And then there was no point in starting it in the first place.
Why bother?
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep the ball rolling, So that's probably the biggest mistake. That's the most easily avoidable mistake and is the most common mistake. People just don't carry the ball.
Yeah.
They just drop it, which is just a dead end.
Yeah.
It's not going to get. If you know you're going to do that, then reconsider.
Yeah.
The other thing I would have to say is failure to document. And you mentioned that, and we just kind of talked about that a little bit. But failure to document with your doctors. And it's not all about diagnosis. Diagnoses are important.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have them, the judge has no idea what's wrong with you. So it's extremely important. But limitations are what they're really looking for after they know what's wrong with you. After you have a diagnosis, they want to know how it bugs you.
Right.
And I think we may have talked about this in the past, but just for people who haven't heard or haven't been listening, for example, people with back problems. You and I could have the same diagnosis. We could have basically the same looking MRI test results, whatnot.
Yeah.
You're going to feel different than I do.
Oh, yeah.
Just a matter of science. You are just going to handle it differently, whether it's because of body composition or because you handle pain and I don't, or vice versa, or maybe yours is a little worse than mine or whatnot. It's hard to know when you look at those test results exactly how this bugs a person. And if you don't tell your doctor how it bugs you, then it's never written down. And you're in a situation where the judge has no idea. They have a diagnosis, but they don't really know how that limits you. If you can't get a shower without help, you can't get down in the tub because you can't get back up. You're fatigued because your medicine wipes you out and you have to sleep several times a day. Or it makes you completely confused, or maybe not completely confused, but sort of disassociated. You get that fog. I've had to take medicine a couple of times with dental work and whatnot, and it does put me in a fog. Now, maybe not everybody.
Yeah.
I don't handle it well, but
I don't.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
But if you don't tell your
that.
doctor, they don't know. Some people handle it well, some people don't. I have a lot of clients that cannot sit through a 30-minute television show and tell you what they saw.
Wow.
Some of it is because they're hurting and they're distracted. They're sort of watching, but it's more watching them,
Yeah.
And they're really not processing what's happening in front of them because they're so concerned with how they feel.
Yeah.
Or they're disconnected because of their medicine or whatnot. And they, it's very common for people who have pain to have an issue remembering things.
Yeah.
Because when you hurt and it interrupts your thought cycle, your information doesn't get stored where it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And so your brain can't go back and get it because it's not where it's supposed to be. But if you don't tell your doctor, Nobody knows.
Yeah.
You may be suffering. You may have had it for months. Your spouse may know. Your kids may know. But if you don't tell your doctor and they don't write it down, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
As far as the judges are concerned.
Right.
Granted, it happened in your world.
Yeah.
But as far as the judges are concerned, they have no idea.
Yeah. They're not mind readers.
Absolutely not.
And
they don't even go there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they have no idea really what questions to ask. They're not physicians. They don't know, so that you have to be able to give them that information. And the same thing with the doctor. If you're not telling the doctor everything that's wrong with you, then nothing's going to happen, even though I'm sure a lot of people, and I'm kind of the same way, I get really hesitant on telling doctors all my problems because in the past I've dealt with doctors where I've laid everything out and they just didn't seem to care or took care of it the way that they should. Right. And I'm sure that a lot of people have had that situation, just get frustrated and figure, well, even if I tell the doctor all this, it's not going to do anything.
Try.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
Or tell the nurse when the nurse comes in, when the nurse asks you, how you doing? Mm-hmm. Don't say okay if you're not okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing that goes in your medical record.
I am the worst about that.
Well, you're not exactly Southern, but you're a transplant and you like it here. So we'll
exactly.
Count you. We'll count you. But, people from the South just generally, they don't take those questions seriously. Mm-hmm. It's all about being friendly and nice, and they just, oh, yeah, it's all good.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. I do that all the time. I've had knee issues over the years. I go in and I'm sitting there in pain. I have a huge softball sticking out of the back of my leg, and the nurse is like, how you doing today? Not too bad.
It's all good.
It's just automatic instinct. Yeah, not bad at all. But that is the time to let the nurse know, because she's going to go out and tell the doctor, because the doctor is seeing a bunch of patients. Usually they're in and out of the rooms all day, and it's that nurse or even medical assistant that are the ones that are going to be writing everything out and keeping track of everything.
Notes. Another thing that we see a lot is people will say, I'm just here to get my medicine.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you here to get your medicine? You need it because why? Mm-hmm. You still take it because what's happening to you.
Yeah.
If you just say, I'm here for a med check, they write down, here for a med check or here for medicine refill. Mm-hmm. We see that all the time.
Oh, I bet.
And people just don't think about it. They don't realize that matters. That's not the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
To them, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
They're just kind of charting or just being nice, really, and moving on.
No, that makes sense.
So it's important to deal with all the medical people that deal with you at your clinics and your appointments as if anybody can document.
Right.
Because they can, and they do.
Yeah. So basically, no matter what's going on with you, say it. And I know we've stressed that pretty much every week. Say everything, even if it's not really pertinent to your situation in getting Social Security disability. Mention it, because it might be a cause for down the road.
Things play.
If you're getting headaches, well, okay, I can work with headaches, but I have some other major issue going on. But yeah, I'm not going to mention the headaches because that doesn't have anything to do with why I'm actually at the doctor. Mention it because it might. It's that due diligence.
It may be correlated to whatever the problem is. It may be related to the problem. And if they know that information, maybe they would treat you differently.
Mm-hmm. No, that only makes sense. Now, someone goes before the judge. They've appealed. They're in front of a judge. They have the hearing, and they lose that hearing. Now what do they do?
Well, they can appeal. In Mississippi, we still have a level of appeal at the administrative level through the Social Security Administration itself, prior to federal court, where you can appeal. Now, I always tell people, your hearing is where you want to win.
Right.
Now, granted, if we can win before that, great. We'll do it. But the hearing is really where you can make a difference, because that's the time that you get to eyeball the person making the decision.
Yeah.
Any other time, it's paper, it's on the internet, whatever. You don't actually get to sit down with the person who's making the call and eyeball them and talk to them.
Right.
But you do at a hearing, and it's crucial that you be prepared, that you know what your goal is, what your rules are as far as proof requirements, that sort of thing, because that's when you can make a difference. Mm-hmm. And if you go into a hearing and you come off incredible or uncredible, whatever the proper terminology is, incredible could be bad too.
Yeah, I'm incredible.
Yeah, either way,
and denied.
You may have some problems because the judge may not believe you.
Yeah,
so you need to be prepared for that. Your hearing is everything. It's not the bottom line, because you do have another step, but that's where you want to nail it.
Right.
That's where you want to go in for the kill. And so you need to be ready for that. But if you do get an unfavorable decision, and that's what they call them, or unfavorable decisions, In Mississippi, fortunately, we can still appeal to the Appeals Council. Appeals Council is way off in Virginia. It's sort of the black hole. It's like you can send stuff there, but you never know if they really got it.
Okay.
So you have to document, take it to Social Security, make them stamp it that they received it if you're sending something to Appeals Council, because seriously, they're like in another solar system from us. And I don't mean that in any really derogatory way. It's just they're totally disconnected.
Right.
So you can't really get from here to there.
Yeah.
And what happens is you get in line, and if you ask for time to make an argument or time to submit something, they'll send you a letter when they're about to make a decision. So you have, your deadline.
Right.
But if you don't do that, then just one day, out of the clear blue yonder, you'll get a decision from the Appeals Council. Now, it's a very, very limited number of people who actually get something good out of the Appeals Council. And that's just the fact. The stats show it. I'm not making that up. I don't say that just because I don't really care to deal with them.
Right.
But the stats show it. It's a very difficult place to win.
Okay.
It's on paper only. In other words, you don't get another hearing at that point.
All right.
You have to write an argument that this is why the judge was wrong when he did or she did X.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you have to convince them that that it was wrong enough to matter.
Okay.
There's some standards there.
Right.
A little difficult. But what they can do is they can rubber stamp what the judge did and say, you know what, even if it was bad, it wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they can say, no, we really agree that you should not win. You're not disabled.
Okay.
So you can get that decision. You can get what they call a remand. And a remand basically says, we don't really like all that the judge did. We have a couple issues with what that judge did, and we're going to send it back and let that judge rethink it. Now, they don't give the judge the answer. They don't tell the judge you really should have won.
Right.
They just say, we don't like how you thought about this and that.
Okay.
And you go back and rethink those things. Have another hearing, call in an expert, whatever. They give direction on what that judge is supposed to do. So you go back before the same judge, potentially, for a second hearing. It's a remand hearing. And the judge gets another call. And maybe you win, maybe you don't. Maybe you have to go back to Appeals Council. It's just, you don't know at that point. So it's better than nothing. I'll take a remand over a rubber stamp any day. Okay. But the most favorable outcome, of course, is a win. Mm-hmm. And Appeals Council has authority to do that. They have authority to pay you at that level.
Oh, okay.
Now, rarity. If you get one, you need to send it up the flagpole because you're special.
Right.
You're super special because they just don't happen.
Yeah.
We get one or two a year, and we know what we're doing.
Right.
It's just they don't issue them.
Okay. That makes sense.
It's just something that they just don't do generally.
Okay.
We get more remands than favorable decisions at that point.
Really?
And we get to go back and wrangle with the judge again.
Well, at least you get that.
Yeah.
So, that's a good point. But once that rubber stamp is down, is that it?
Administratively, that's it.
Okay.
But because it's this kind of system that it is, and it's an administrative system, if you don't like what the administration did, then you can take that beef to federal court.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually appeal that to federal court.
There's always a higher court.
Yeah. Federal courts are historically very, very conservative.
Okay.
They're also busy.
Yeah.
Social Security takes up a lot of time because they don't do a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
So not a lot of people take their cases up to federal court.
Right.
And they're just not real fluid with it. So they have to study each one as if it's a whole new ball game.
Oh, wow.
And so it takes a lot of time, and they don't like it.
Right.
I'm not saying anything they wouldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Or maybe they wouldn't put it in writing, but they really, that it bogs them down.
Yeah.
And that goes for every circuit. That's just not here. That's everywhere.
Okay.
And so those cases are not favorably received to begin with. And we have a couple of judges in our state. So it depends on where you live as to what judge you get. Mm-hmm. But we have a couple of judges in our state that will actually request oral argument.
Oh, wow.
And we love that. Please, let me go try to convince you in person that this person is disabled and that the administration was wrong when they found this person not disabled. Mm-hmm. Those oral arguments we found very favorable. They're difficult. The judges are very pointed and they still don't like them.
Yeah.
But at least those people have open ears. And I appreciate that.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. But they're still hard. It's, it's still not easy. It's a lot of prep.
Right.
Kind of a big deal. But you can actually effectively take one of these cases all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Really?
It
Wow,
has
that's
been done several times. We haven't done it. We haven't had the need to do that.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
Because that seems that's a little stretched. But I guess you can with any sort of case. But wow, even for that, that's
certainly can. Now it'd have to be a real good issue.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you'd have to pick and choose those carefully.
Right.
But it can be done.
Wow. Well, that's good information to know. Now, if people have questions and even want to retain your services, what is the best way to contact you?
Just call us 601-545-3127. If you're just looking for information, check us out on the website, davismorrislawfirm.com, no hyphen. Or just if you want to check out our post, go to Facebook.
All right, and you'll be back here next Thursday. 9 o'clock. All right, Angela, thank you so much. And coming in next, Jennifer Clark will be in to talk about the Pine Belt Women's Expo. Again, that's coming up on July 28th. And we'll be back with the Pine Belt Talks Back on Super Talk Mississippi 97.3.